Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Mike Kollin at seductionpower.com, the godfather of seduction. Okay, so I saw a video of some guy, and he does videos about avoidance because he got hurt really bad. Now, if you don't know what an avoidant is, you really should watch at least, I would say, a dozen YouTube videos on avoidance, because if you run into an avoidant, they're very damaged people. On the inside, they're good people, but they protect themselves like a shield with a lot of negative stuff, because they're like the opposite of a narcissist. What they do is they'll use these techniques to push you away, and they will pull away, whereas a narcissist uses techniques to suck you in, to damage you. Where an avoidant, they're trying to hurt you, but not to damage you. They're trying to get you to leave them so they can pull away. Because when avoidants get close to you emotionally, they open up intimately, it terrifies them. Now, that's another subject which I may start making videos on, because a lot of you guys will confuse, well, women are this, and they're so confusing, and they don't make any sense because you've been dealing with avoidance. And when you can see the difference between an avoidant and a natural healthy woman or somewhat healthy person, you'll be like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. So it brings a lot of clarity to learn more about what's going on in the world. Now, the cool thing about this guy, he has a small channel. It's under 1,000 people. It just happened to pop up in my feed. And he was talking about, be very careful of what's going on online. There's a lot of just AI-driven YouTube videos that aren't human. Now, he's not necessarily knocking AI, but what he's saying is all they're doing is copying scripts from other people. And he said, it's just regurgitation. There's no substance or depth to it. And he goes, I really, at this point, really, how did he say it? He goes, I just dismiss almost all avoidant videos online. He goes, you get a lot of fake AI stuff. And he goes, you also get a lot of people that just call themselves life coaches because, oh, I wrote it down on my blog, or I wrote it down on a business card. And so he goes, in their eyes, that qualifies them as a life coach. He goes, that's not a qualification. And he goes on to say, hey, you've got to be really careful. He goes, there's a lot of people out there that are literally just listening to videos and just repeating what they heard without even having any understanding of what's going on or any psychological background, etc., etc. Now, I'm going to give you a real brief one of mine. At the very beginning of every video, it says psychology, NLP trainer, master hypnotherapist. I think it says master practitioner of timeline therapy, and Huna, Reiki, pranic healing, etc., etc. So here's my brief. I'm going to give you a brief background of me. I'm a highly certified, professionally trained life coach. I would rather say personal development coach. There's a reason why I say that, and I'll get to that after this. I personally don't use the phrase life coach, and I really pulled away from it a long time ago because what I noticed was going on in, I would say, the early 2000s or mid 2000s. So number one, I studied psychology in college. Okay, I studied at Arizona State, Chico State, and Solano Community College. I have over 22 units in psychology classes. For my clients who have actually been to my living room where we do trainings and one-on-one coaching, you will see wall-to-wall books, home study courses, manuals, etc. on human behavior, psychology, Ericksonian hypnosis, timeline therapy, NLP. I've got NLP manuals. I've got the practitioner alone will take you 30 days if you study for 2 hours a day to get through this practitioner. The home study course, that doesn't include the certification course you go to. I've got the master practitioner set, which is even larger. In there's like 30 some tapes that are about 2.5 hours each. And then I have the NLP trainers training, which is even larger set of books filled with these audio tapes. And then I went and retrained with another company, and I bought their home study courses, okay, from practitioner, master practitioner, and also trainers training, okay. So I've got manuals and books and audio tapes from American Institute of Hypnosis, Neuroenergetics, Advanced Neurodynamics, Tony Robbins. I mean, I have certifications from all these trainings. Now, these trainings, I flew out to Long Beach, Hawaii, Costa Mesa, which is in Southern California, a city right next door, which I can't remember the name. We did another 5-week training there. I went to Pennsylvania, studied with John Overdurf. Not to mention all the trainings I did with Tony Robbins, from the business trainings in San Francisco, San Jose, and UPW, the Firewalk, Date with Destiny, and the Neuroassociative Conditioning certification courses. Now, the NLP trainings are a minimum of 2 weeks up to 5 weeks each, where you literally are in class for 9 hours. And sometimes they'll throw in a morning class for an hour and a half to 2 hours. So you're just going around the clock. And then they're like, hey, we want you to read page 50 through 90, tonight before you go to bed, so you can be prepared for tomorrow morning. And we're all like, yeah, well, we already read that book. They're like, reread it. Trust me, you're going to need it. So these were in-depth NLP trainings that I took, and I repeated, and I went to other companies, et cetera, et cetera. So I did this for 12 years nonstop. Another thing I want to mention about the wall-to-wall books is I have over 300 books on psychology, human behavior, hypnosis, human sexuality, and on and on and on, just in my living room alone. And that, I counted, that was back around 2010 when I had realized how many books that I'd read. And since then, I've read more. Now, most of my books, now I'm going through a rereading of all my books. I've reread most of those books 5 times already. Maybe not all of the books, but the NLP books, the Ericksonian hypnosis books, timeline therapy, et cetera, et cetera. So that genre. Another thing I've done is I studied with Buddhist monks for over a decade, probably 12 plus years. My ex-girlfriend was Laotian. I went through this huge spiritual awakening when I was 20 years old, and I begged her to take me. And Buddha calmed the minute I walked in. He made everyone bow to me, and I said, why did you do that? And he said, well, you're the highest monk here. I'm like, I'm not a monk. He grinned. He goes, yeah, you are, and you know it. And I was like, well, I kind of do, but I don't really. He goes, you just need to open up. So that's a long story. So I started with Buddha Calm off and on. I'd usually go up there about 2 times a week for about 4, maybe sometimes a little bit, 4 hours, sometimes a little bit longer, maybe 5 hours. We would do meditation. He would teach me healing techniques. He would do techniques on my girlfriend. I'd watch him while he was doing it. He would do healing techniques on me, et cetera, et cetera. So I learned a lot from Buddha Calm. And then let me pull up the picture of him. Hold on. Or actually, I don't have his picture, but hold on. So this is me at the temple in Richmond, California. I actually live right across the bridge from Richmond, California, so the temple's probably maximum 15 minutes from me. So this is Buddha Chandi, and that's Buddha Mai. The other monk's name, I forgot. This was more than, 10, 15 years, probably 10 years ago. So the reason why I show all this stuff and do all this stuff is I have over 51, this is another one, I have over 51 certifications in NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, Reiki, Huna, pranic healing, neuroassociative conditioning, blah, blah, HNLP, which is John Overdurf's take on, he calls it humanistic neurolinguistic psychology, because him and his wife both have master's degree in psychology. Now, here's why I'm making this video. So I'm listening to this guy's video, it just popped up, and he's a really humble, down-to-earth guy, and you could tell he's been damaged really bad in relationships, and he discovered what an avoidant was, and he realized, like, oh, that's what it was. I was in a relationship with avoidant for a long time, and they damage you. Okay, so maybe I'll make another video on it, because I think it's important for you guys to understand what they do to you. It's like they get you to release a chemical inside you, like when you gamble, and it's that there's a term for it. I think it's called intermittent reward, where they don't reward you every time, but every 7th, every 15th. And we learned this in psychology classes. Like the gambling places up in Reno and Lake Tahoe and Las Vegas, like they did a study, and they realized if you were to reward someone every single time they won, they would literally get bored and leave. If you did it every other time, every 3rd, every 4th, every 5th, every 6th, every 7th time, they would eventually get bored and be like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore, even though they're making hella bucks, okay? What they learned, though, is if you can make it intermittent between the 7th and I think it was like the 15th time or the 18th time, if you rewarded them once in between that and it was completely random, your body would get addicted. It would release a certain chemical and you would get hooked on it. And that's why people get addicted to gambling. It's literally a chemical release inside your system. Now, I don't know if avoidants are doing this on purpose. I don't think they are. I think they learned out of survival. And you know what? Okay, I'm gonna end this piece right here because I want to get on to the next piece. Here's the deal: avoidance got abused severely. They're good people, they have good hearts, but they have been so emotionally destroyed and attacked and physically abused, some even tortured, that they want love, they want closeness, but the minute they get close, they get afraid because their family essentially fucked with them, and they would fucking set them up, and it was a form of mental, emotional, and physical torture and abuse. And it damaged them. So they want to be loved, but then they pull away when they open up emotionally because they get absolutely terrified. So I'm going to end it on that. And that's one thing this is why I say you should be nice to people, especially women, because sometimes you think when they're fucking with you, it's really not them fucking with you. It's them with their own psychological abuse issues, and they're doing things to protect themselves, which may end up hurting you. But if you can see through it and be like, oh, this is an avoidant, you realize they're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to protect themselves. Okay, I want to wrap this video up with this last segment, okay? So as I'm listening to this guy, memories are coming up. Way back around, man, I'm trying to think. Let's see, 2001. Hold on, let me time out. Let me figure something out. Yeah, so it was shortly after 2001 when I really started going to clubs in San Francisco, like a lot, okay? So here's what I began to notice. You'd meet someone, they'd say, hey, what do you do for a living? I was like, oh, and I'd pull up my card, the Love Doctor. Now, no, I am not a doctor, okay? Just want to make sure this is just kind of, this. You know how I got this name? When I would teach them my course, they all started calling me the Love Doctor. Like, so you're the Love Doctor. Even at clubs when they say, what do you do? I was like, well, I specialize in male to female communication. And I would say teach men how to open up to the right brain, to learn how to speak the internal, mentally stimulating and emotionally fulfilling language, etc. Now here's the deal. Those sentences are loaded with keywords that trigger the female's mating system. Now I would do that on purpose because I understand what it's doing. Now you're like, what are you talking about? You're just talking. I know. If you take my course, you are going to see a completely different side of what's going on. So they would eventually, after I talked to them, for 10 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever, they say, wow, so you're like the real life Love Doctor. And after a period of like hearing this for like a year, someone goes, dude, you should just make a business card and call yourself the Love Doctor. So that's how I got this title. So here's what I noticed. So I'd be talking to someone outside, and usually it was a girl. Like actually for me, because I was talking to girls. Okay, so what would happen was there was this one girl who we stepped out front. She goes, hey, let's go talk out front, in front of the club, the Matrix, right, on Fillmore in San Francisco. I have to say something real quick. That period of time, that lasted about 10 years, maybe a little longer. That was the best, I would say the second best period of my life. That 10 years, that decade was freaking amazing. It was fun. And it was clean fun, though. I don't do drugs and never did anything. And it was just, the club was they were always kicking people out for doing stuff in the bathroom. And if they got caught, you get kicked out for 30 days. Second time, it was for life. And it was just like, it was a very, at least from my experience, it was a very clean club. People were always nice to me. It was just a really positive experience. So, and it was really, really fun. And it worked for my business. I'm handing out my business cards, and it just worked out really well. So I met this girl, and now this is before, now we did start getting websites, but this was kind of even almost before you really needed one. So this was early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s. And she goes, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, well, I'm trained in NLP, this, that. And she'd never heard of any of this stuff that I just, timeline therapy, blah, 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 Ericksonian hypnosis. And she goes, really? And she goes, why? I'm like, well, and now I'm trying to think of a way, because usually I just tell people I'm an NLP trainer. If they heard of that, they knew exactly what I did. And so I'm like, well, how do I explain it? Because back then people didn't know what a personal development coach was. I'm like, well, I'm a personal development coach. She goes, what does that mean? Like, well, I use techniques to help people overcome their challenges and problems and to shift their neurology inside. And she's just lost. She's looking at me like, I really don't know what the hell you're talking about. So then I go, okay, because this was, I remember in college, in fact, one of my teachers, one of my classes goes, Michael, life coaching is going to be on the rise in 10 years. You should start getting trained in that right now. And she goes, I think you would be really, really good at that with your background. And so I kind of like, whatever, it sounds weird, but I dove into it about a year later. I fell in love with it. And so I looked at this girl after remembering that teacher using the phrase life coach, and I heard it during our trainings, but it didn't click with me. And I said, well, I'm a life coach. She goes, oh, really? I'm a life coach too. And I kind of looked at her like, what? And so the reason why I looked at her that confused and I said, what, was because I named off neurolinguistic, because she was like, well, what's NLP? I'm like, well, it's neurolinguistic programming. It's a form of cognitive and behavioral psychology, blah, blah. And I was just like trying to describe it to her. She goes, yeah, I never heard of that. And then I said Ericksonian hypnosis. She goes, well, what do you mean? Like, why do you use that? And I explained timeline therapy and all this stuff that I was trained in, and she'd never heard of any of these things. And then she goes, yeah, I'm a life coach too. And I'm like, wait a minute. But you've never heard of NLP. You've never trained in hypnosis. You've never this. I go, did you study psychology? And I'm thinking, well, maybe, because, see, just because you get your master's degree in psychology does not make you a life coach. It just flat out doesn't. But I thought, well, maybe she got some training in college and, courses. But for the most part, those courses really don't teach you techniques and how to help people to shift. So she goes, no, I've never studied psychology in college. I'm like, okay. And so I was like, well, so I go, so what makes you a life coach? And she goes, well, I just made some business cards. I'm like, really? Oh, okay. Feeling completely delusioned or something like that. And I just kind of walked away after a minute or two. And then at the same place, same club, right outside in front of the windows, literally almost same like step on the, the sidewalk, I met another girl, and she goes, oh, my friend is a life coach. And I'm like, oh, she trained in NLP, blah, 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 blah. She goes, no, never heard of those things. Like, so I don't understand. Like, where did she get certified or trained in? And that's what I said to the first girl. She goes, oh, you can get certified in this stuff? She was clueless. So the other girl goes, oh, no. She just made a business card. I'm like, so what qualifies her to be a life coach? She goes, oh, well, she's Catholic. And I'm like, that's it? She didn't study psychology in college? She's like, no. So what I began to realize was a lot of people thought a life coach was just like, oh, well, I've got my shit together. My ego's bigger than yours, so I'm going to make a business card and I'm going to tell you what to believe and what values to have and what rules to live by. That's not what I do. Life coaches don't tell people who to be, what to do, what to wear. We teach you techniques on how to communicate better. We help you overcome like values conflicts, beliefs conflicts inside of you. We heal you emotionally, stuff like that. We don't choose who you to be. You're your own individual person. We just help you to clear the blockages so you can be who you truly are on the inside and just go live your life and achieve your life goals, etc., etc. I have nothing to do with what you want to do with your life. I have nothing to do with what your values should be. I don't tell people who to be. That has nothing to do with the work that I do. I help people to transform radically. Another thing you're going to want to look for, if people do go through a quality NLP training, you can literally walk out of those trainings and start doing phobia cures and reframes and all kinds of stuff. Like there are some techniques that like you'll understand, you'll be able to use, and you'll be able to get results fast. So I would look for like, where did they train? Who did they train with? How long was the training? How in depth was it? Stuff like that. And also like how many books did they read on the subject? Just kind of get an idea of it. And then the other factor I would throw in, how many years have they been practicing doing this? I've been doing this for over 30 years. And I'm still reading books and listening to audio and home study courses almost, not quite daily, but on a very, very regular basis. I make a point to go to the coffee shop 3 times a week, and that's just to read for a minimum of an hour to an hour and a half, okay? The other thing I do is I'm doing a home study course, audio course right now with a manual. And it's a long course. It's going to take me probably another 20 days to finish this one. Then I'm going to go on to the master practitioner and so forth because it's through another company. It's through John Overdurst is what it is. I love John. He's a great guy. He's a master trainer in NLP. And he's been doing it for over 30 years. He became a master trainer, I think, about the first or second year that I got involved in NLP. So that's it, guys. So be careful and choose your life coaches wisely. Make sure they got a background. Make sure they have history. Make sure, find out how many years you've been doing this. I would say somebody's been doing it for 5 years or more and they are dedicated. Like, this is their heart. This is their soul. They put everything into it. That's the kind of person you're going to work with. Another thing I would say, you might have to bounce around from some coaches for a while. And also energy healers, because you'll start to notice like who's the real deal and who's not the real deal. Now, I'm sharing that from my own personal experience. I went through a lot of different energy healers, hypnotherapists, NLP trainers. Like a lot of people that even went through my trainings, they did it just for the certification. I had one guy that was a roommate of mine for all of the trainings, and so we essentially stayed in touch for over a year, and then even afterwards. And one day he just said, I allowed him to attend a therapy session I was doing with a client, and he was fucking blown away. And he flew out once a year for New Year's every year. He liked the celebrations out here versus being in London, England. He just loved what we did out here. So he'd fly out every single year, and we'd hang out for like a week or so. And he would watch me work with people, just random people at the coffee shops, doing phobia cures, doing this, doing that. And he was just like, how do you do it? I'm like, well, what are you talking about? He goes, you're actually helping people make change. Now, remember during the course, he had said something that was kind of telling. So he essentially said, well, it's all just a game. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because Rob didn't pay attention in class. He didn't study hard. He had not then, but he admitted that years later when he was out here visiting, he had never finished his practitioner home study course. He said, yeah, after the third tape, I just, whatever, this is just a bunch of hooey-fooey. I'm just going to go to the course and get my certifications. The other thing he told me, he goes, well, how many sessions do you usually do with people? I'm like, generally I get people results, if it's just one specific thing in 3 to 5 sessions. He goes, 5 sessions? He goes, you've met with people for 5 sessions? I'm like, well, yeah, of course. He goes, wow. I'm like, well, why? He goes, I've never had anyone come back after the first session. So we had a pretty in-depth discussion, and he said something that kind of blew my mind. He goes, well, Michael, it's not real. I'm like, well, what's not real? He goes, well, it's like we're acting. Now, Rob, by the way, had taken acting classes in high school and college, and he'd been in plays and stuff. I'm like, what do you mean it's like acting? He goes, well, it's just a game. They come to you, you act like you're going to do something for them, and you talk to them for like an hour and a half, and then you charge them, they pay you, and they walk away acting like they've changed. I'm like, you really think that? He goes, well, yeah. I'm like, so what did you think about the session I just did with this person? He goes, well, yeah, it was obviously changed. I'm like, well, yeah, do you see the difference between acting and reality? So here's my point. You really got to figure this stuff out. Bounce around, go to some coaches. Here's the deal. You're going to eventually find someone that really works for you. Like, they just click with your personality, with who you are. And that's the thing. When people work with me, if we don't click personality-wise, that's actually absolutely fine. I'm okay with that, because you really do need to find someone that works with you and your personality. That's completely fine. I won't get upset about that. So that's it. Pick and choose wisely, guys, and learn about it. You'll figure it out. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next video. If you like this video, please click subscribe, click the like button, and as usual, go ahead and make a comment. And if you want to support this channel, the best way to do it is to go to seductionpower.com and buy one of my books, one of my dating relationship books. I highly recommend you start with Crack the Female Code. All right, guys. Bye.